I've been building motorcycles on YouTube since 2017 and sharing the process to inspire you to build a bike that you can be proud of. And I've made my own fair share of mistakes, and in this video I'm going to give you 5 of the most common mistakes that I see, ways to avoid them. Although this video is probably more targeted for people that are beginners in building a motorcycle, this is probably going to be something in here for everyone. So this one is extremely common, and I can tell you there's a ton of people that know this, and there's also going to be a ton that don't. With the screws that look like Phillips Head on all Japanese motorcycles, they're actually not Phillips Head screws. They're a JIS screw, and that stands for Japanese Industrial Standard. Every single carburetor that I've ever worked on has stripped screw heads. Either people don't care, they don't know, or they just try their best with the tools that they have. The way to tell if it's a JIS screw is on the top of the screw, you'll see a little divot. That is telling you it is a JIS screw, not a Phillips Head screw. You'll need to buy the proper JIS screwdriver in order to not strip that out. Or in a pinch, you can sacrifice a standard Phillips Head screwdriver and just grind down the very tip, and that way you'll give you a better perch on the screw. It's not the best option. Getting the right screwdriver is going to be a lot better, but there you go. And the difference between a Phillips Head screwdriver tip and a JIS is the angle. A Phillips Head has a lot sharper of an angle, which means it won't go inside the screw properly, and therefore you're going to strip the screw before you even get started. And a fun fact about JIS screws you may not know is the Japanese engineers were really smart when they designed these. They weren't trying to make something more difficult for everyone who has Phillips Head screwdrivers. They actually designed them to be torqued up. They're a hell of a lot stronger than a standard Phillips Head screw. You can torque these to a certain setting. And did you know you can actually use JIS screwdrivers with every single Phillips Head screw? So if you don't have yourself a set of JIS screwdrivers, well worth putting in your toolbox. I'll leave a link to the ones that I recommend and the ones that I use. And as a bonus tip, this thing has saved my bacon many times with stripped out screw or bolt heads. This thing is an impact driver. Put it in reverse, put the right size tip on it, and then just hit it with a hammer once you've got it over the top of that screw head, and it shocks the bolt and therefore pulls it straight out of the hole. Absolutely amazing. Not very expensive, but I tell you what, well worth having in your toolbox. And speaking of keeping things in your toolbox, there's one thing you should always have in your toolbox if you're working on a motorcycle, and that's thread locker. There's this Loctite brand, or there's also this Permatex. There's so many brands out there, but just remember the red one is your more permanent. This is kind of like put it in, never have to worry about it undoing. Whereas the blue one generally is a more sort of vibration proof kind of thread locker. But it's not for everything. Did you know there's also an anti-seize that you can use on certain parts of the motorcycle, but you shouldn't be using this? I'd always recommend using some anti-seize on your spark plugs. Just the thread here, you only need a tiny amount, and that'll just help it going into those aluminium heads and backing it out later, as well as your exhaust flange nuts and your collector clamps. Anti-seize is a lot better than using the thread locker. And if you know that tip and you already use anti-seize over thread locker in certain areas of your motorcycle that I haven't mentioned, leave it in the comments and let us know. And the next thing is to plan the build. Don't just race in and get the cheapest motorcycle you can find online, because the bike itself is going to be the cheapest part of the entire build. Everything else is going to cost you exactly the same. Tires are the same price, cables are the same price, speedos, lighting, everything's going to be exactly the same apart from the purchase price. So if you get a cheap bike and it's not exactly the style of bike that you want to turn it into, don't end up with a weird looking motorcycle. Choose a motorcycle that's going to fit the style of bike you want to build. If it's a cafe racer, make sure you get that nice straight line going from the tank to the seat. So if you pick a sports bike type frame, it's really not going to look like a cafe racer should look. And you probably already have budget in mind, so just remember that there's things that you might be able to do and there's things that you may have to pay someone else to do that's going to probably cost a lot more than you think. For example, I do a lot of monoshock conversions and chopping frames. If I had to pay a fabricator to do that sort of stuff, it's going to cost a lot of money. So just keep that in mind when you're building the bike and making the budget. And always remember, if you're going to purchase a bike and it's in 1,000 pieces or in a whole bunch of boxes, try and make sure it's a complete bike. I always like to buy a bike that's all complete and together, because otherwise you don't know what's missing, and the smallest components like bracketry, or even say for example like a set of carburetors or something, it's going to cost you so much money to acquire those things to get the bike back to what it would have been originally when you first purchased it, when it was cheap. So try and get the entire bike if you can. And the next one's a really valuable one, especially for beginners, and it's never bite off more than you can chew in 2 days. I've had 2 close friends that have done exactly this, and they would recommend never doing it this way again, which is getting the bike home from, say, Marketplace. You get it home, you strip it down, and you end up with a whole bunch of parts sitting on the garage floor or in boxes. And then you kind of lose motivation because you have nothing to sit on. You can't really envision the bike. You can't sit back and look at it and work out how you want it to be, because it's just a bunch of parts. So you really do lose that motivation that you started with. But as I said, bite off what you can chew in 2 days. Say you got a weekend to work on it, take off the wheels, paint the wheels, put new bearings in, put tires on it, and then put them back on the bike so you have a complete bike at the end of the weekend. You don't know when you're gonna get back to the bike. It could be a week or a month, quite a few months, or maybe even a year later. So at least you've got the complete bike there that you can look at and you can figure out how you want to do the next step. And hopefully this keeps you motivated, because you're always going to have that bike that you can sit on, you can envision it, you can envision yourself riding it, and you can work on the next step and keep that journey going. And while we're on the topic of working on your bike over the weekend, I get about 1,000 to 1,500 new subscribers every single month. So there's a lot of you out there that may not know that I have a video series to teach you how to build a motorcycle step by step. This course will teach you how to take a motorcycle like this and transform it into this. And all of the skills you'll learn are going to be applicable on many other different motorcycles, not just the one we're working on. I've spent a ton of time and effort on this video series. I'm extremely proud of it. It's going to take you from the early stages of getting the motorcycle all the way through every single step and what step to take next, all the way up to you actually get to ride it at the end. And the best part is it's only using basic tools. Well, I would call basic tools a grinder and a drill. If you've got those, and maybe even a welder, you can most definitely do everything I'm showing in this video series. Go and check it out. I've kept it affordable because I obviously know that you want to spend money on actually building the bike, but I can guarantee you once you see this, you'll be glad you got it. There's a couple of questions I get all the time, and the first one is I've got a motorcycle and I can't get it to start. Or I have a motorcycle and it runs, but it runs really badly. And generally speaking, it's one of these two common causes. It's not always the case. There's so many parameters and so many things that can go into it, but I would 100% check these two before anything else. And the first one is electrical. So often these contacts on the connectors get corroded over time. So the best thing you can do is pull them all apart, give them a spray with some contact cleaner, and then maybe a little small wire brush. Put them all back together. It's not going to hurt to go over every single connector and do this, and then you know you've got a solid connection. And the next one, which is often overlooked, is a bad earth. If you've got these little guys connected to your frame, maybe you've painted or powder coated your frame and you haven't cleaned out the bolt hole, you're going to have problems. Or if you haven't cleaned the face of where this sits, do that on all the places where you have an earth on your bike. And in case you don't know, there is a difference between a tap and a tracer. This is a tap, whereas a tracer will just clean out the thread as opposed to cutting a whole new thread. So a tracer is better for in case you've powder coated or painted the frame, you just want to clean it. You don't necessarily need to cut a new thread. And another comment that I get all the time is people that have a motorcycle and they can't get it running properly, or maybe it's coughing or backfiring, or perhaps it's just bogging down when they're giving it some power. And it's most definitely these guys, your carburetors. It's like a black magic if you don't know how these work. Most of the time, if you purchase a motorcycle from Marketplace and they said, oh yeah, it used to run, but it hasn't for like 2 or 3 years, it's probably because the old fuel never got dumped out of the bowl, and so therefore it's turned to glue. What you need to do is you need to completely clean these damn things out. And I mean completely clean them. If you can ultrasonic clean them, even better. But just use some carb cleaner, spray through everything. Some of these carburetors actually have like a little diaphragm in there. It's air fuel cutoff. You need to take those out, maybe replace them because they've probably got holes in them. These things are causing a lot of issues on motorcycles that don't run. And if you've got a motorcycle that maybe you've put pod filters on, that's another issue altogether. Pod filters and CV carbs, constant velocity carbs, don't talk to each other. They do not like, these things hate pod filters. So your best option with that, if you're taking it for a ride and it's bogging down when you're giving it some power, it's probably because your jets are the wrong size. Now, the best thing you can do for that is go 4 sizes up and start there, or even 5 or 6 sizes up. And then if it's doing anything different, and then back it down each time. It just means you have to take the bowl off and generally take the main jet out and keep replacing it with smaller jets. And that will get you sort of close. It's gonna take time. It's gonna just be a teething thing, especially if you've got a different exhaust system and you're running pods. If you're running a standard motorcycle with the airbox, you don't have to worry about that. That's going to be perfectly fine. Just use the standard jets and just clean it out as well as you can. Sometimes you will have to clean out carburetors more than once because stuff just delodges and then finds its way down into another channel, and then it will block up that channel and therefore cause the motorcycle to run badly. End of the story. Clean these things as well as you can and give the motorcycle a good run. And while you've got your carburetors off, you may as well do a bench sync. And what I mean by that is making sure these butterflies open and close at exactly the same time. If you've got even the smallest of gap in one side compared to any of the others, if you've got 2 or 3 or 4, then make sure you do a bench sync. Now, your adjustment is generally in the center of the 2 carbs. That's how you get them to exactly where you need them to be. There's some great videos out there and showing you how to do that. but that is 100% going to be causing you issues or a cough or even an irregular idle if there's a little gap on one compared to the rest. And if you've got the carbs back on the motorcycle, you can sink them even further and a little bit more accurately with these guys here. And if you don't have a set of these, you can also make yourself a set with a couple of bottles, a little bit of tube and some water with some dye in it so you can see what levels they're at. These work quite well. I've used these on other motorcycles before, but these are obviously going to be a lot better, and you can get digital versions of these as well. Or if there's some common mistakes or tips that you know of that I haven't mentioned in this video, make sure you leave a comment and let us know. And as always, I've got a ton of videos just like this one. Go and check them out. And also don't forget to check out that weekend bike builder video series I mentioned earlier. I'll leave a link to that in the description below.